let's talk about the aid money, and the aid money that went to UN agencies, of which we learned by the day the number of people that were involved in the October 7 attacks grows. It's now, the best part of 1,200. This is where my position has always been, and it won't surprise people as a libertarian, right, which is less money as possible to the highly compromised United Nations and trying to send it to targeted aid through particular local charities or perhaps international bodies that have better accountability. But I want to ask a question about if you're sitting around the cabinet table and something like this comes up, right, and they say, all right, $10 million we're sending to the UN to do this. Obviously, once we've given it, the assumption is that the UN takes care of it. But do we have any process to actually follow that the 10 million ends up in the right place or doesn't go to the wrong people?
Well, look, I mean, the way the UN works is it's got committees. It does have some degree of transparency, nowhere near enough clearly in this case.
100%.
And we should not resume this funding until we are absolutely convinced that everybody who participated, supported, this atrocity, this barbaric atrocity, are held to account. They've already said, we've sacked a range of them already.
They should be sacked. They should be jailed.
So, people who were supporting this, actively helping this, should be dealt with, and they should be dealt with harshly. So Australia should under no circumstances resume this aid until it is absolutely convinced that this agency has cleaned its own house. And if it's not, you just sit there and go, no.
But we don't hear that out of the government. We heard temporary pause because it was a lovely little callback to something else they've been previously calling
and it was also because Penny Wong announced a boost to the funding to UNRWA when it was known and accepted around the world that people that were employed by UNRWA that were teaching in Gazan schools and employed by them were part of the Hamas October 7 pogrom. Yet Penny Wong went over and promised more funding to them. Everyone knew. And you might have said you've been talking about the interest rates for 6 months. For over 12 months, I have made multiple speeches in the Parliament reading out textbooks from UNRWA and the anti-Semitism. I have read out social media posts of employees of this UN agency. Now, we have to remember here too, the UN does have refugee agencies, but this is a specific agency for Palestinians. So why do they need that? And I'm sure, Stephen, you might have as well. I've been to the Palestinian camp, UNRWA, in Ramallah. It's not a camp. It's a suburb. There's a sports club. I went to a restaurant there. They also have monuments erected to martyrs who've killed Jewish civilians that are beneficiaries of a pay-for-slave policy. There is much more to be done on this front, and we need to acknowledge that Palestinians, many through Hamas and through this UN organisation, absolutely preach from the river to the sea, and that is the decimation and genocide of Israel. And it's not acceptable.
Gang, thank you for the chat. That was remarkably friendly. I wanted a bit more.
Sorry,
no, they got along.
They got along.
Go and have one, and I want to hear it in the car park. Thank you, guys.